Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hunter Podcast. This is AJ Cox. Next to me, as always, is Chris Donovan and Levi Mason. Brett is not here with us today, but he is here in spirit. A good chunk of this episode, probably just to give you a heads up, is we're probably going to talk a lot of shit about Brett because he is not here to defend himself, so be prepared for the ride. All right, if you want to see what we got going on, go through, see us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find us on there by just going through and typing in the Hunted Podcast. Go through, interact with us. We would love it. I know we got us talking all the time, but if you got some cool stories or something going on or, something you want us to talk about, we would be more than happy to go through and do that. While you're there, go through and check out our swag that we have. We got some stickers, hats, tumblers, koozies, and stuff like that. Here before too long, we're going to go through and start doing a pre-sale stuff for some items. We're not quite sure what we're going to do with that, but it's probably going to be some hats and some sweatshirts. And then if we run out of the stickers, tumblers, and hats that we have with us, we'll go through and do some more that way. You can go through and reach out to us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, or you can go through and just contact us and we will get you hooked up that way. So at this point in time, we're going to go through and do our moment of silence for our first responders and military. It's just our little way of saying thank you to the people that are out there, day in, day out, nighttime, all that good stuff. And then the moment of silence is, like I said, our little way of saying thank you to those who are no longer with us. But if you are listening to this and you are in the military or any type of first responder, we do mean it from the bottom of our hearts. We truly do mean thank you for going out and doing this. So for right now, we're just going to take a few seconds here of a moment of silence for those who are no longer with us. All right, one more time for your first responder, military. Thank you so much for this. If you're listening to this and you want to say thank you to somebody, please reach out to us and we will go through and give them a shout out, say thank you. If you have a department or, anything that involves any type of first responder military, just let us know and we will be more than happy to go through and, say thanks, tell a story and all that good stuff. So, all right, I believe on this episode, we're going to talk about some antler growth and things like that. If you listen to one of our previous episodes, I can't even remember which one it was, Chris brought up about how this year it's going to be difficult for people to probably pass on some younger deer because this antler growth, supposedly is going to be the best that we've had in years on top of years on top of years on top of years. But we were chit-chatting earlier, and it could be almost kind of bad, too. We got some concerns, and I'll let Levi and Chris talk about this more because they know more about this than I do. So have at it, boys.
Yeah, I think as far as we talked last time about the antler growth and having a bunch of cameras out, I definitely think it's all coming true. I think that these deer put on a lot of inches this year, and I've also noticed I think we're going to get a lot of deer at first that, running cameras and having pictures that we're not even going to recognize them right out of the gate because they put on that many inches, this year. So, and then and we were just talking a little bit ago, worried about all the rain we've had and all the wet holes, and hopefully we can avoid an EHD hit this year. So pretty concerning, really.
Yeah, at this point, I think we're really going to have to pray for a lot of moisture just to keep getting it,
right?
To keep that water fresh and not getting stagnant and all that stuff. Because, there's so much water in different locations, and, like we were talking earlier, a little puddle out in the field, deer are drinking out of it, and, it's hard telling how many deer are drinking out of it. And if it just keeps getting drier and drier and it gets hot, it's going to be a recipe for disaster on the EHD side of things. So we just need to, at this point, keep praying to get in the moisture and hope for the best.
But where we're at now, and from my understanding, it seems like we're almost kind of lucky with, like you're saying, keeping it moisture and keeping it this and that. Because, yes, we have had burning hot days. But, realistically, it's, dude, like yesterday and even today, dude, absolutely beautiful out.
Yeah.
nice little breeze, and then they're calling for a little bit more rain. I think here at my house, when I was up and moving, I mean, we were even getting some sprinkles and stuff. So hopefully we just keep going through and keep getting lucky with all this, because you're exactly right. The more water it's out there and all that EHD, and I didn't even think about it. Chris had me all excited about the, oh man, I'm probably going to shoot me a big old one this year. I didn't think about, what bad could come from.
And it seems like our weather patterns kind of come in these cycles where it's cool and wet, and then bam, next thing you know, it turns off hot and dry.
Yep.
So hopefully we can continue this weather pattern out for quite a ways, as we get closer to fall or even into that, first hard frost, to minimize that risk of EHD. Let's just kind of hope it lingers on throughout the summer here.
So do you think we need to go through and keep almost like cool? Like how I guess, what would be the best case scenario for us to go through coming up in the fall?
I think, like Levi just said, I think, really have nothing to do with, mild weather or hot weather. But at this point, with having the excessive rain that we've had that's created a shit ton of wet holes, we just need to keep getting some rain here and there. Don't have to be a bunch, just enough to keep everything
Just keep the water
and
fresh and moving.
And that way we ain't getting down to where it's just muck and breeding grounds for midges, So
Because you were talking earlier too about how you went out and every step you said just skeeters.
And in the woods, if you're in the woods, the mosquitoes are the worst I've ever seen them. I mean, it's horrific. But that's why I think most of these deer, which we've been seeing, they're bedding and living in bean fields right now, or shaded areas in the grass on field edges. They're staying out of the timbers because the bugs are horrible.
Right. Yep. Which is great for scouting.
Right.
I mean, you can go out there and sit on the road, sit on the edge, and
when I seen that big one a couple weeks ago, I went out to just scout a bean field, and I just looked out in the field and seen antlers sticking up. And I looked over, there's another set of antlers, and they're bedded right out in the dead middle of the field. There was 3 of them together.
Just enough area to stand up, eat, and sit back down.
Yep. Yep.
And then we were talking about, which this interests me, because you got some antlers that you got hanging up on your wall here, and Levi brought up something saying too. What was it? Was it last year when we were talking about that July?
It was a couple years ago, but it just aired on Jury's 13 there the other night. About a buck they had a couple years ago that he shed his velvet in, I want to say it's mid-July. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I mean, his antlers were like super brittle. He just pretty much from then on out, once the other buck started to shed, he just started breaking everything off because everything was so brittle. And then the next year, he came out of it a little bit, but he'd still shed early, still pretty brittle, still broken off. And then, finally that third year after it happened is when he finally snapped out of it. Mm-hmm. But there's some sort of injury there. I don't know whether, to his body, to his testicles, to the antler pedicles, what it was, but there was, something to it. And, it just happened to remind me of this rack that Chris has up here on the wall.
Yeah, there was that deer actually got his right eye put out during rut the year before, and then we got a bunch of pictures of him next spring. Our cameras we out for turkeys, and the injury, his eye, it was swelled up, it didn't look good. Well, then as he grew out that year, for some reason, which he's a giant, but for some reason that right side, it's almost like a piece of chalk. Like you can take your fingers and dig right into that whole right side. You can dig your fingernail right into his antler. It's like a piece of chalk. And we ended up losing him that year. We had pictures of him in September when he went hardhorn, and then ended up finding him dead out in the bean field. My brother-in-law did when he was picking, and he either died from maybe infection on that injury, or he ended up getting EHD. We don't really know, but something with that eye injury and how the blood got to his went up to his antler. Not really sure, but I've never really seen anything like that either.
Yeah, it's
pretty rare.
Pretty crazy how that came out. I mean, he's all bulbed out on the end still, and Yeah, just
And
crazy.
the left side, bone white, and then the side that grew weird, it's chocolate. It's crazy.
So do you think that that's straight from injury? I mean, you don't think it's like anything crazy, like, because we kind of talked about this earlier too, as to where the growth is going so fast and everything. Do you think they're going to be shedding early this year, or do you think it's going to be about the same?
I think it'll be about normal.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're going to shed any earlier.
Which is a good thing, right? I mean, you don't want them too early because they very well would they become brittle and stuff like that? Do you think?
Oh, I'm sure to a point. I mean, if they shed when they're before they're completely peaked out and ready to shed, I'm sure there's can be some complications there. But most of the time they're pretty well peaked out by mid-August, and anytime after that, I mean, they're pretty much ready to go. I mean, I've had bucks, a few in the past, like around August 20th, shed, and I thought that was early, but then, hearing about that one the other night that was mid-July, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, there's a pretty big variance right now as far as, pictures and then scouting. There's some deer that are still balled out big time. Got a lot of growing left to do, but I've also seen a lot of deer that are pretty damn close to being fully developed. I mean,
and I wonder if that isn't, kind of some of how our winter went and how they were dropping and stuff, because they were dropping antlers like crazy, in January.
Yes.
And then February kind of hit and it just kind of stopped. And then, March, then they just kind of trickled off from there. So,
yeah, because we did have a lot of deer shed early. And then once that weather warmed back up, it seemed like they held on to them forever.
Yeah.
I mean, there was how many deer we seen running around in March with both sides.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that maybe the ones that shed early, not knowing this, but just I think the ones that shed real early might have put on earlier growth than the other ones, and those are the ones that are behind. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I mean, whether they got an early jump or they're a little behind, it seems like by the time the shed or the velvet does come off, it seems like everybody's pretty well caught up, for the most part.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
So you're saying the other ones are catching up and everything. So roughly, it's just, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking of it like that. So that kid in 6th grade that grew really, really fast over everybody else. Everybody's going to, when he hits the freshman year in high school, everybody's just going to catch up to him. So everybody should be where they're at.
Pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. I think that as far as like we talked before too this year, it's going to be a really tough year for a lot of guys to make decisions on what deer to shoot,
especially in the heat of the moment.
I know it because, I mean, like I said, we're going to have a lot of deer that we don't even know because they grew that much in one year, and yeah, just trying to decide, okay, is this deer going to be this good next year, or is he going to go downhill because we're not going to set up a growth season like this again? So it's going to be a pretty tough season to decide what to shoot and what not to shoot.
And I think we may see a lot of older deer that normally would have gone downhill more. I think they're going to actually be in better shape and actually look better this year.
Yes.
Than in previous years, just because they came out of the rut in better shape. We had a great winter weather-wise, and then now we've got all this rain and all this nutrition out there. The temps have been cool. I mean, they haven't had any stress on them, really, so to speak.
No, none. And another thing I've noticed too is, running cameras for the last couple of weeks, is the differences on these fawns. I mean, I'm getting pictures of fawns that look like they've just been born, like within the last 3 weeks. So the deer population is, of course, one of the best we've had here in a long time. Mm-hmm. And there's so many deer that the rut just continues on. I mean, I think there's does getting bred in January and February.
Oh, yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy how, you got fawns that are getting big, and then on my Knoxville piece, I've got 2 does that both have triplets.
Yeah, I got one that's at least has a set of twins out there.
Yeah.
So do you think this weather and everything is going to be better for like everything as a whole? Like for the raising these
it's
fawns
better for fawn recruitment. Like I said, there's less stress from the heat. We've had the moisture, the vegetation's there. Not only the natural browse, but our food plots and everything are doing really, really well. The bean fields are doing really, really well. So there's a lot of food, a lot of nutrition there, very little stress. I mean, it's going to be a good year for the deer.
I just wish it was one of those to where we could go through and do something like with EHD or anything else. I wish, the state of Illinois would go through and let us, I'm not saying bait by any means, but I wish we could go through, and I know we've talked about this before, but to be able to put out like some type of like a health mineral or something, because you can't tell me that leaving them alone so they don't eat in the same hole or wherever, because they're going to go wherever they're going to go, is better than being able to go through and say, hey, and the first things popping in my mind is some analogics that goes through and it gives them, vitamins, minerals, helps them to get over, because I always go back to if I'm sick, I'm not just going to sit in bed and lay there and hope to get better and this and that. I'm going to go through and get some antibiotics or something.
Exactly.
Or, if you're weight training or you're in some type of athlete, if you're going through there and you're tearing your muscles down and, basically depleting your body, you're getting something in you to go through and improve.
You have to have that nutrition.
Yeah. I really wish they'd go through and pass something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Because that, any trophy hunter, that's their biggest fear every year, is EHD hit. And like we were talking, 2012 was so bad that, and you think every year, you always think back to that. And it took us a long time to come back after that one.
Yes, it did. We're letting CWD hold up EHD.
Yeah.
Just because of the simple fact there's been a few deer here and there, and mainly north of here, like a long ways north of here, like there's not very many reports of CWD right here in our local areas. Mm-hmm. And we're letting CWD dictate the health of these deer for EHD.
For everything.
They don't want deer eating out of the same hole and this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'm here to tell you, I've watched deer in the cornfield late season eat the same ear of corn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're never going to minimize that.
No. Especially as big as our herd is right now. I mean, that's
exactly.
It's going to happen all the time.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I agree there. I had a pretty cool strand of pictures last week across the street where the Pine Ridge is at, and got a camera down there at the bottom of the Pine Ridge. Doe and two fawns come by the camera, get to the cornfield edge, turn the corner, and then all of a sudden, the two fawns run back by the camera, the doe runs by the camera, and 1 minute later, the next picture, a bobcat came. So it hopefully didn't get the fawns, but it was definitely on the chase.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep. And then we have a picture at our other farm. We're not 100% sure. It's a nighttime pic, but coyote walked by the camera, and we were looking at the picture trying to figure out what it had in its mouth. It looks like a fawn head. We're pretty sure.
That sucks.
Yeah. Pretty sure that's what it was. That's what it looked like to us. It's hard to make it out, but it definitely looked like a deer head in his mouth.
Well, not only, for the deer herd, I mean, this has been a great year for everything. I mean, coyote-wise, I've seen more coyotes here in the past month than I can ever remember seeing in the summertime. I mean, it's been crazy. I mean, I've had a pack of 3 pups laying in the road, almost every day by my house. And then the other night coming home from a ball game, we had 3 adult coyotes run across the road in front of us. So it's just crazy.
Need to get you a travel gun.
No doubt.
We need to be getting up and going out and hunting those things midsummer.
Exactly.
You know it?
Yeah. Well, with some people decided to have kids and want to be good fathers. So one of us is almost always available. But yeah, but getting back to your antlers up there and everything. So that's where I wanted to get back to, like, speaking like with feeding like the minerals and stuff, because you said that deer died the next year, you think? Or
he died that year. I mean, but the injury was from the year before.
Right, but I mean, that's what irritates me about it is you're saying we can't do anything to try to help this animal, you know, that we want to go through. And I'm not even saying it's one of those things to where, you know, I want to beef up these deer, and I want to make sure, you know, I'm not going to shoot anything unless I can beef them up to X amount of weight and size and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, because I know we've talked about this before, but with us being outdoorsmen, man, we want to help these animals.
Right. That's what we do as conservationists. And, you know, you have a year where it's a rough rut. You know, these bucks are run down, beat up, injured, and then you go into winter, and then say we do have a brutal winter, there's another recipe for disaster, not only on the EHD side of things in the summertime, but then turn around and they face it again in the winter. Or, you know, maybe it's a year where we did get knocked out by EHD, and what survivors, you know, still have some effects from summertime of surviving EHD, and now they got to go into wintertime and try to survive winter. I mean, those deer are getting hit hard.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nonstop. I mean, it's especially if, you know, we got a hot summer. I mean, we always talk about how tough deer are as a whole, you know, taking shots and, you know, getting hit by a car and keep moving and stuff like this. But I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, it's constant. They are hot, getting beat up by the heat, the cold, getting hunted. Well, like you're saying, predators.
I'm going to be the asshole here and say it. You know, for Illinois, you know, deer is their cash cow, and they know it. You know, they pretty much put out an unlimited amount of tags now to non-residents. This is their cash cow, and for it being their cash cow, they could give a shit less about them.
Yeah, and since you brought it up, I'll 100% agree with you. I mean, you would sit there and think, I mean, it's just like, you know, your regular farmers, you know, they don't just let their cows out to go through and do this, and they're like, whatever.
Exactly.
You know, hey, have a good luck. Hope we'll come get you in a few months and take you to the slaughterhouse.
You know, they're the Department of Natural Resources for a reason, and I feel like, you know, between our, you know, the predators, you know, the bobcat population right now, the river otters, our declining wild turkey population, our nest raiders like the raccoons and stuff like that, and our deer herd, I feel like they've really let us down as Illinois residents on protecting our natural resources. And I don't want to say that going against, you know, any of our conservation officers around. Right. I think they do a great job. You know, I'm friends with some of them, and I appreciate everything they do. But it's everything above their pay grade. It's everything that happens in Springfield and run by everybody in Chicago. And I think, you know, it's about coming to the point where I think you guys are like me, where it's, you know, this bullshit's got to end at some point.
Yeah, you think it. Yeah, at some point something's got to end or give. But I mean, I'm 100% with you as to where, you know, you're getting these. It'd be like us three going through and trying to, you know, teach chemistry and geometry to somebody. You know, we don't know what we're talking about, but if you're putting us in charge of going through and doing it, this is how we would do it. And then nobody else can bicker and tell us that we're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
Because we're telling you how to do it instead of them going through and actually, you know, talking, meeting with people.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, this is a crazy idea, maybe doing it.
Right.
Going out there and seeing and understanding and this and that instead of like, well, you know, we got our research from this.
And you see our neighbors around, you know, Iowa.
Yep.
You know, I've heard a lot of people say it's not as good as it used to be 15, 20 years ago, but it is still, you know, huge. I mean, Iowa is still, you know, probably the number one sought after whitetail mecca. But then you've got Missouri. I mean,
it's exploding. Yeah,
Missouri's awesome. And then you look to our east, you know, look at some of the bucks that have come out of Indiana lately. Ohio has just exploded over the last 10, 15 years.
Yep.
So you can't tell me that these states aren't doing something right, and why aren't we, you know, I guess bouncing ideas off each other or listening to what they're doing in these other states to protect our whitetails?
Yeah, and I mean, it's to me, it breaks it down just as simple as, you know, I get it. They're worried about this, they're worried about that. So you're telling me that Illinois is the only one that has it? There's you know, like you're saying, exactly. Ohio, Indiana, and all these other places, they're different.
Yeah.
You know, there's a magical barrier there that these deer and other animals don't go over there. That's what gets me going about it is why these other states are going through and doing it. Their population and is getting better. Their popularity is getting better for hunters and everything like that. But we can't. We're going to keep you know, status quo as it's been for whatever.
Yeah.
That's one thing that bugs me. So, all right, taking a pause. We're going to go through and give you out some of our sponsors here. We got Rec Broadheads here with Matt. Go through and make sure to order him ASAP. Get you some of his new broadheads. These new expandables are top notch. He's doing some crazy videos, and other people are doing some crazy videos with him. I think he just put out one the other day, shooting a cinder block and shooting and it did its thing. I mean, obviously it was messed up, but it was nowhere near as bad as you think it would have been. He went through and shot it through his shoulder, opened up, them blades went through, busted through that shoulder. Absolutely did what they're supposed to do. Seems like it's kind of they're going through and getting so many batches at a time, and they are sold out about as fast as they can go through and put them out. So if you're looking to get some new broadheads, which we highly recommend, go through and check out Matt at Rec Broadheads. And then Dominant Strands Bowstring with Lewis. He is busier than busy right now. He's saying that if you're looking to get strings, I mean, you need to get a hold of him right now, because he usually said, he told me he's about a month and a half earlier busy time than what he is. So hopefully it means that, everybody's listening to us and they're buying Dominant Strand bowstrings so damn much that he just can't keep up. So you're welcome with that, Lewis. We're pushing everything that we can for you, buddy. And then ECW Hunting Calls, go through, check him out. He's got turkey calls, goose calls. I think he's got some elk calls. I mean, buck calls and all that, obviously. Go through and check him out. They're great, wonderful. They 100% do the thing. We are excited to see what we can do with them this fall. And then Backwoods Premium Wildlife Products here before too long. I mean, we're already into July a good bit, so we're going to start thinking, start getting stuff ready for fall plots and everything. Go through, check them out. They got stuff from, you can go through no-till, put it in the ground. Or they got throw and grow. I mean, they got beets, anything and everything you want. You can go through and watch their stuff. It's actually very interesting to see how they go through and come up with their ideas and stuff. And then, not here in Illinois, but if you're in a state that you can go through, they got stuff you can go through, putting your feeders and all that good stuff. All right. That was kind of interesting to kind of go through with Backwoods there at the end, talking about their feed, or you can go through and put in feeding and stuff with what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about to be able to go through, because I'm sure, going even with Backwoods, I'm sure their stuff is something that's going to be beneficial to your deer population, putting some weight on them, keeping them healthy and stuff.
Absolutely.
Because that's like, the wintertime, if we could do anything as far as, putting stuff out to be able to supplement, feed our deer in the winter after season is over, that to me would be huge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we need to go out there and hunt over top of them and this and that, which everybody always goes through and says, they think bait piles and they think that every deer in the whole, area is going to come in, which we all know that's a load of crap. It's still gotta happen and go through with that. But if we can go through and, like you said, even supplement feed, I'd even be good for, having it set out to a certain amount of time, and then you can't have it within, I don't even care, like X amount of distance away from a stand or something, I just want something to go through to where I can go through and help my herd to go through, because like you're saying, the pressure and everything just seems to be getting on them greater and greater and greater, and we're just kind of, sitting here with our thumb in our ass, just crossing fingers, hoping that they can make it through.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the coyotes have been bad enough here forever, and then why not just go ahead and throw some bobcats in on top of it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
wreck everything while we're at it.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but where I hunt, I've never seen a bobcat out there. But last year, and then through turkey season this year, dude, not only am I seeing bobcats, dude, they're big. Oh, these are big, healthy cats.
The population of them is just exploding. It's literally everybody you talk to that either spends a decent amount of time in the outdoors or runs trail cameras. Mm-hmm. It's literally everybody. Oh, I've seen them. It's nuts. And here we're only letting them out, X amount of tags out. Are you kidding me?
Right. I wish to me, they should go through with, I think we talked about this before. It sounds like, DNR is going through and they're going to start putting raccoons as nuisances. So it's pretty much going to be when that hopefully goes through and pass, if it didn't already, it's going to be a have one come by, take care of it. Because, I mean, not only is it for the deer population and everything with eating the eggs and all that stuff, but, dude, I mean, they are wrecking havoc on these farmers' crops.
Oh, yeah.
Getting in there, I mean, you get some.
And the deer get the bad rap for it.
Yeah.
Those coons will get up there and they'll ride stalk down, then they'll go to the next one, ride it down, and the deer take the rap for it. But.
That's a couple weeks ago when my buddies called me. He's like, "Hey, want to let you know somebody's at your farm down by the concrete barn. They've got live traps, and they're digging them out of their truck and they're releasing coons." And I'm like, "Are you fucking shitting me?" He's like, "No, I should have stopped. Yeah, I should have stopped and said something." So I came flying out here. Of course, the guy was already gone, and my buddy didn't recognize the truck. So I put a sign up down there and made a sign that says, "Do not release live trap raccoons on this property. If you do, I have a camera right here, and I will get a picture of your license plate. I will trap them and bring them back and put them on your fucking property." That's a sign I put up, and I put a camera right on it. So it would have been Thursday morning. I was coming out here in the morning, and I come around the corner, and a guy's parked on the side of the road, and he's getting a live trap out of his truck, and it was one of my buddies. And I stopped.
Well, it was one of your buddies.
Well,
used to be a buddy.
I pulled up and I chewed his ass, and he's like, "Well, why are you so mad?" I said, "Dude, I'm trying to get rid of these things, and you're coming out here dumping them." "Well, I didn't know. I just trap them in my house, in town, and I thought that was the right thing to do to bring them out in the country to." And he's not an outdoorsman,
right?
Oh, he didn't know, but I said, "You just do not release them here." He's like, "What the hell am I supposed to do with them?" I said, "You just call me when you catch them, and I'll take care of the problem."
Yeah, which I didn't realize this, but I guess there's like a certain. I guess we're into it right now to where like it's illegal to live trap raccoons and stuff because of their mating or having their whatever they're called, their babies or something like this too. So to me, that's also not helping a situation either because, I mean, dude, they're
destructive
everywhere. Yes. I mean,
we can't keep flowers around the house. I mean, they come every night. They dig through the flower pots and turn them over, and there's, potting soil everywhere. And, everything around my yard is dug up because of them.
Right. So I don't know why it popped the movie. When you're talking about running havoc, going through and eating all the flowers and stuff like this, all I could think of was the movie, I just had it, The Great Outdoors.
Oh.
When them damn raccoons go through and they get in the trash and all that stuff. But I mean, that's exactly what they do. I mean, that's what they are, and it's
trash pandas.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to say that, and I know if people listen to our other episodes and they if they know us, they understand, like, we're not out to go through and just try to kill everything. Like, there has to be
management.
Yes. I mean, because I think we were talking before about raccoons and stuff. Didn't you say that at some point there was a disease that was going through?
Distemper.
Yeah.
Is a disease that can spread quickly and wipe a bunch out, but evidently it's
not enough.
Nature takes care of itself, but the raccoons seem to the population is just insane.
Right, but I mean, you have to go through and try to find this happy medium with it, because if not, I mean, it'd be like us going through and having a wall 10 miles around us, and we have to live in this bubble nonstop all the time. If we don't go through and do nothing to help or make things better, dude, I mean, you're talking inbreeding, you're talking diseases, you're talking,
exactly,
for food and I mean, yeah.
And I've had a lot of turkey pictures in the last couple weeks, and a lot of hens come by my camera. I'm yet to see one hen walk by with any little ones.
No shit.
None. Zero. Haven't seen any yet. Now, a couple of my buddies have had quite a few pictures, and they do have little ones with them, but
right.
I haven't got one picture yet with.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Yeah.
That's not making you excited for next year.
No, not good.
So I don't know how to put this. So do you think for the raccoons and stuff, do you think it should just be like kind of an open season? Like just go through and just have one, and then
I think so.
Kind of have X amount of years have it, and then we'll be like, hey, well, however they do their surveys, have them go through and do a survey again to see about what the population's going to be. What's really sad, I just now thought of this, what's really sad about all of this is that raccoons ain't worth shit.
Exactly.
No,
Nobody goes out and runs dogs and coon hunts anymore.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
they do
aren't
it.
worth nothing.
They just
Nope.
do it for nuisances, and which breaks my heart because I know you talked about this before about how, what was it, you were climbing up in a tree or whatever and saw all these little babies in there. And
Yep.
it was
That's-
kind of a...
And, 2 years ago, we came out here and Brett was with us, and a couple of us hunt out here. We're like, we need to go coon hunting. And my brother-in-law has been on my ass about it too. He's like, you guys got to start coon hunting. They're destroying my crops. And we came out here that night, and right out of the gate, we shot 4 and walked away from them. I've never done that before,
Yeah, just sickens you.
Never just shot 4 animals and just walked away from them. And so I told my buddy Duddy, I was like, I don't know, dude, I'm not really feeling right about this. He's like, why? It just don't feel right to just be shooting them and leave them, just leave them on the ground. Just don't feel right. And he's like, do you want your turkeys? Do you want all the crops to be destroyed? Or he goes, we have to do it. We have to do it. And I was like, it still is weird though.
Right. Oh, no, absolutely. I mean,
We've done it 2 years now. We've came out and coon hunted several times and shoot them and walk away. It just don't feel right. But what else are you going to do?
yeah,
They're
It's like fishing an overstocked pond.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great way of thinking about it. Yeah. You go through, and I mean, that's another thing, too. They get stunted, and they're just not healthy.
Yeah,
And
and,
then-
what's the biologist tell you to do? Catch the hell out of them and throw them on the bank if you ain't going to eat them.
Exactly.
Yep.
So the raccoons can come down there and get good fat and eat them. So we can just keep. Okay, we're going to do second part of sponsorships here. So we got, as always, Hex. We are beyond happy to have him. This stuff is something that if you use it a couple times, or not a couple times, use it for a season or two, you will become a believer. You'll see stuff. It is crazy. I'm very excited to see how it works this year again for me. Because last year I had some close encounters, then the deer just come in and they just kind of give you like that puzzled look, but I've yet to have one blow at me, stomp, or anything. So as always, very happy to have Hex, and we are very happy to have our next one too, Wild Oak Whitetails Buck Lure with Corey. He is a local guy, goes through one deer, one bottle. Going to have to get in contact with him here before too long, so it's about time to start going out and doing some scrapes and all that, and get that good old deer PP out there to get them other deers to come in and PP in there, and we can start getting better pictures and kind of what we got going on. And then we got Marath Welding. He's been nothing but great for us also. I can go through and get a hold of Evan, and he's like, yep, we can go through and get a hold of this and get something welded, fit together, manufactured, customized and all that good stuff. So go through and make sure you follow him. But if you're wanting anything done, you need to get a hold of him ASAP because he is busy. And then here in a few months, it's going to be picking time, and he's going to be even busier, which is crazy to me. And then the last one for this one, we got Antler Ridge. Go through, get a hold of Jesse. He goes through, makes these great hats. We're actually all wearing them today. Goes through, local guy, does his thing. He'll get them to you. If you want something, you send him kind of a file with whatever you want, or you got an idea. He will go through and do absolutely what he can to get your stuff. He went through and did some, the other day, and even just, I think it said it was his original one. It just said hunted or hunting on it, something like that.
Yeah.
So if you just want something with some lettering on there, he can do that. Logos for businesses, anything like that, make sure to go and check him out. Okay. Done with 2 of the 3. So I know we originally started talking with Antler Growth and all that stuff, but as usual, we always go through and peter off to the side, and somehow we went from Antler Growth to talking about shooting raccoons populations. So we're always going from one way to the other. So let's steer back to this Antler Growth. But I know we were talking about it's going to be hard to go through and pass a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, or and whatever. But shouldn't their bodies be bigger though too? So maybe it might even be hard to distinguish, I guess.
That's another thing that I've noticed this year, scouting cameras. The deer for this time of year, usually in the summertime, they can get pretty rough looking.
Oh, yeah.
They look freaking awesome
Yeah,
this year. They are
very
healthy as shit.
They're mean and lean looking.
Yeah, they look good. And I was thinking the other day, we were talking about it, with the crops being, a lot of crops got put in early. Great growing year for the crops. There's going to be guys picking corn, and Levi, he knows just as much about this as me, but into August, 1st September, there's going to be a lot of crops coming out of the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be early harvest, which means in October, when it gets here, a lot of these fields are going to be gone, picked, going to push all the deer out of the fields back into the timber. I think October could end up being a hell of a month to kill deer.
Oh, yeah. It seems like whenever you get that that harvest, especially around, timbered areas, when it's coming out, the week prior to bow season or even that week of bow season.
Yes.
Dude, it's magical.
Yep.
Like, you get on that field within the first 24, 48 hours, holy crap.
Yeah. I think this year we're going to see, I think it's going to be a good October if we get the weather.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I don't know what it is because, a lot of times they're still, feeding on some acorns and stuff like that, some natural browse in the timber, but it's, you get into that kind of that 2-week time period there leading into bow season, and then that first week of bow season, and that corn gets picked, and it's like drawing freaking flies.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, your food plots even kind of go a little dormant if you've got a cornfield right there close. I mean, it just pulls them from everything.
Yep.
So, yeah, I definitely think you're onto something there.
We was out at my buddy's farm the other day, and so one of his friends from Florida that he hunts with, they started in areas where their stands are at, they've been fertilizing their oak trees with 10-10-10. This is the 3rd year they've done it, and it's absolutely insane. If you fertilize some trees every spring, the difference from those trees compared to the other ones, like you can tell on that farm which ones have been done because the leaves are super dark green compared to the other ones, and the amount of acorns they puke out. If you do that, it's unbelievable.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's unbelievable. So we were talking about this year. We're like, we have got to do that out here. We got to fertilize some trees, and we never did it. But
well, and that would have been, now that dicamba's kind of, illegal.
Yeah.
That would have been a thing to be doing, back in the years when dicamba was so big and hitting those oak trees,
Yep.
from the nighttime, drift and when it was settling and everything. Maybe that would have saved some of our oak trees around because I know they got, scattered throughout the countryside. I mean, there's a lot of oak trees that got hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
From that.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's a good point to bring up.
It works, and it's unbelievable the difference. Like it's crazy. You can walk through, and I mean it's night and day difference. By looking at those trees, you can definitely be like, oh yeah, you fertilize that one for sure because the leaves are just super dark green, and so to do that in your stand sites, especially for October when they're hammering them acorns,
Absolutely.
I think it'd be a pretty good deal.
Yep.
So do you think, since you're talking about they're out there picking and doing all that, and you're saying, they come in, it's almost like ringing a dinner bell and stuff. So do you think if you went through, the reason I'm asking this because I did this at my property, the corn and stuff, like earlier in the season, it might be doing something a little bit more beneficial if you go through and just kind of mow that off earlier than maybe wait till later in the season and do it later?
Yeah. I think so. And then we're, last year when I went and put all my rye out, I feel like I should have maybe did that a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it had to do with moisture too, But this year I'm going to try, spreading all my rye in the fields a little bit earlier to get a little bit more growth early. And, I even think, you're mixing that rye and, putting in your cornfields, standing beans. I think that stuff starts growing. I think they'd even be in there hammering it even when the fields are standing,
Oh, yeah.
I think they'd find it. But last year I felt like I did it just a little bit too late. And like I said, it's a moisture thing too. Didn't get the right rains. But this year I might try to do it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a cheap food plot.
Exactly.
It's easy.
Yeah, if you're getting the moisture and you get it in there at the right time, I mean, it's crazy.
Because I'm trying trying to do this smart, but I'm like a little child. Like I want to get out there every day and go do something, but then I don't do it, but I want to.
Well, speaking of that,
Go ahead and make fun of me.
no, I'm not going to make fun of you, but, I've talked a lot about, even before, Chris and Brett came on the podcast about intrusion being your biggest enemy on trying to kill deer, especially mature deer. They had a Q&A on Instagram the other day with Mark Drury, and that, was kind of one of the questions asked, or what's one of the things that's been most, made you most successful. And number one was, over the years as they learned, it was intrusion.
Right.
Back when Mark said when they started, they didn't feel bad about walking through a bedding area and blah, 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 blah. And, now watching him, work on these TV shows and everything, just how he sidesteps those deer and gets in there and gets things done. And, you still got to get in there and do the things that you need to do, but how you go about it and basically letting those deer know that they're not being hunted and that overall intrusion.
Which that's what last year I was better at it, but this year, like I am legitimately going through and trying to calculate in my brain to where maybe if I go out there, it's only like one time this month instead of last year where it was like, I'm going to go out there. I went out to the property like 6 times. But it was like, I was only out there for an hour like this time. I was only out there for like an hour this time. I was only out there for an hour this time. So to me, that's why I'm sitting here thinking this year to where if I go out one time this month, then I'm out there for 3 hours. Like maybe it's not going to be as bad because I only went through and boogered them up for one day for the 3 hours instead of going out there and, they come back in, get all comfortable, and then I go in there the next day for another hour and I'm bumping them out again. And then they come back, get all settled back in. And then another day, I come out and bump them out again. So in my mind, by me going through and just doing this one day for the 3 hours, I'm only bumping them and pushing them out this one time. And because everybody knows, deer, it's because the tractors are out there all the time. But when I go out there, like I'm trying to use my truck less and use my tractor more just more for the sound.
Exactly. Yeah, and I wouldn't, I try to tell everybody, go in on, if you got get as close as you can with a truck, tractor, 4-wheeler, side-by-side, whatever. Mm-hmm. I would rather bump those deer 100 times over with a machine than on foot because they associate on foot with being hunted.
Right.
They're used to the farmer coming in on his side-by-side or the tractor or the truck and, all that stuff. And, hey, he's just out here doing his job. He's not bothering us,
Yeah.
And if you do have to go in on foot, go in clean.
Oh,
Wind in the right direction, stuff like that. Same things you would do in a hunting scenario. Do it, checking that trail camera or cleaning that stand out, things like that. If you have to go in like that. But
we do that a lot out here. If the fields are good, we'll do drop-offs in the truck, right through the field, right to the stand, drop them off, and then, like at night, if you're covered up in deer and you don't want to sit there forever,
have somebody come in.
Just we'll text each other and be like, "Hey, dude, can you come grab me? I'm covered up and we need to clear the field out." We do that a lot.
Exactly.
It works out good.
Yeah, you're better off to bump them off that food source with a vehicle than walk right straight through them.
And then, trimming stands. I used to go out in August, into August, 1st September, and start trimming stands out. And now we've been waiting until they start picking the field and just do it when they're picking.
Exactly. Yeah. That's when I move a lot of my stands.
Yeah, because you got the pressure there anyway, so you might as well go do it.
Yeah. But you guys are teaching me stuff. One of these days, I might kill me like a 160 because of you guys. Give some good pats on the back.
And there's another good story that comes to mind while we're kind of on this, habitat topic and, all this. It's from Ben Rising, and hopefully we can have Ben on here sometime. But I believe it was like his first lease he ever got out there in Ohio. He's like, I paid like $1,500 for it. He's like, held giant deer. Everybody knew it held giant deer. And he's like, it had these bottom fields, and they were all grown up, weeds, natural CRP, stuff like that. And he went in and mowed it all down, planted every inch of it.
Oh.
And then it was an epic failure. You know, he had no big deer on there. And
Blew them all out of there.
Blew them all out of there because he went in too hard, did too much, you know, right off the gate. And so I think that's something that can be learned too, you know, as you progress with your farms or picking up a new farm, you know, and wanting to do things on it, stuff like that. So, yeah, hopefully we can have Ben on here, you know, to talk about that, you know, his experience with something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome because kind of sort of at my property, and I know me and you've talked about this before, dude, when I had it, like I said, I was just like anybody else, all excited to get out there. I was walking, trouncing around, smashing this, doing this and that. And then you brought it up and you said something about the CRP out there. And I was like, I don't know. So I went and talked to the property owner and he's like, dude, that hasn't been managed, burnt off or nothing for years and years and years. And I went through and started burning it last year before, whatever, finished up something like this today. And then just from doing that, I know we've talked about this before, but just from doing that, dude, I really think for whatever reason, dude, my turkeys from the property that I hunt are coming over into my fresher, burnt, whatever CRP. And I'm noticing, I wouldn't say necessarily more deer, but I'm noticing older deer. Usually it's like I had a whole bunch of like 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, maybe 3-year-olds. Now these pictures that I'm getting seem like they're more 3 to 4. So I don't know if that had anything to do with me staying out of there, mowing or, you know, burning off that CRP, like trying to improve that habitat for them to come through.
Not only that, but, you know, over the last, you know, 2-3 years, you've tried to, you know, implement a few things out there and doing more and more and more. And, you know, it's not going to be a thing where when you do this, it's not going to be an overnight success.
Which sucks. I'm figuring that out.
Right. And sometimes you do get lucky. Sometimes you do, you know, at rut time or after rut, you know, pull in a big shooter and you can capitalize on it. But you have to kind of think of it, too, as a long-term investment. And now you're starting to see that investment pay off with, you know, a little bit of better age structure and things. So
yeah, and I'm hoping by the stuff that I go through and do this because I can tell all my bucks, they're all related. I mean, their racks are very similar. They all got these, their racks are, you know, they're all shaped pretty much the same and stuff like this. So I'm hoping that but it seems like in years past, the older ones, they get to a certain age and they leave.
yeah.
So I'm hoping I can go through and do this and try to keep them there because like we've talked before, you know, where they're, especially when it starts getting cold, they're going to go where the food's at. And I'm hoping that I can maybe start.
And it's hard to maintain those deer at a certain age. You know, they get to that 3-4-year-old age. Some even 5-year-olds are still wanderers. But if they can wander off and survive, and you're still implementing this on your property, you're more likely to pull those deer back in, and they're going to be a homebody again at that 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old age.
Holding you to that. I'm counting the years down. I got 2 more years. We're going to see if you're full of shit or not. Because then I should.
I really do think you'll see it pay off because even, you know, a lot of the farms that we have, and I know Chris can attest to this because we've talked about it too. It's like you lose a whole lot of those deer, especially at that 3 to 4-year-old range.
Yep.
And then you might not see them at 4, you might not see them at 5, and then boom, 6 or 7, here they are back right in that same area you had them at when they were 3, and they don't move more than, you know, maybe 20, 30 acres, if that.
That'd be awesome.
That deer right there, the one we found dead this year, he disappeared, and nobody got any pictures of him for 3 years.
Really?
Gone for 3 years. Like us, the Brickyard guys, Bomar, he just disappeared. We thought somebody shot him or he got killed, you know, something happened to him. And then last year, we started getting pictures of him. Well, the first pictures we got was in my buddy's parents' yard. There's a little half-acre patch by a pond. He always puts a camera in there, and we get pictures of big deer in there every year. And we got pictures of them. Like, man, what the hell deer is that? Well, it took us a long time to figure out what deer it actually was because he was going downhill big time. And but where the hell did he go for 3 years? You know, where did he go?
Right.
And why was he here until he was a 4 or 5-year-old, and then just disappears and don't come back? but then he comes back and spins his entire. I mean, it was well before rut. First pictures were hardhorn, but he spends his entire rut and even after rut on these properties, and then we find him dead during shed season.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if, I'm thinking it might have been a deal with rut wore him down because he was all over the place as an 8-year-old, 8 or 9-year-old, and I think rut wore him down. I think he died when we had that cold snap.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. So,
which if we could go through and give nutrition
exactly
to these animals,
exactly,
Yeah.
we could go through and get them pushed through.
Prevent some of that.
Exactly.
I think some of these older bucks that still rut hard, that the winter's pretty tough on them old ones.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely. Okay, last set of sponsors here. It's Nature Made Jewelry with Levi. Go through, get a hold of him. He can go through, make you something really what I call country fancy. Rings, necklaces, bracelets, I don't know, whatever. Just get a hold of him. I'm sure he can get you something. What is that? Dog chew toys. He's going
Yep.
to cut up his big antlers.
My retirement
Yeah,
plan.
that's
Yeah.
me and Levi's retirement. We're gonna sell our antlers and
Yeah, tell stories and just, yep.
yeah.
And then Natureland Realty, go through, make sure to definitely get a hold of Levi if you got any land questions and this and that. He's going through getting his licenses he's got them from Illinois, he's working on Iowa, Missouri, and all that stuff. So hopefully you can go through and make him a busy man with that. He'd love to go through and show you and give you some knowledge and all that stuff. Maybe give you some plans on maybe how to, tell him, hey, I'm looking for a property that does this, this, and this. He'll keep an eye out for it and get you hooked up that way. And last but not least would be McKee Automotive. Go ahead and get a hold of Dusty. He double dabbles in a little bit of everything from just lights on your trailers, lights on your cars. I mean, deep diagnoses into diagnoses. Is that a word? He
Yeah,
he go through and get you all figured out that way. Get your tires, jack up your truck, and whatever you want. Go ahead and get a hold of Dusty. Okay, so that's that. So it always cracks me up how we start talking about one thing, and then we kind of peter into something else, and then we peter into something else, then we peter into something else. But I keep looking up and seeing the antlers on the wall. So is there anything else we want to go through before we get this all wrapped up, talking about these antler growths for this year? I mean, I'm excited. I very much am excited just by how you guys are talking. And I mean, I'm getting pictures. I mean, they're age-wise, I don't think they're what I'm looking for. But it's exactly like you're talking, Chris. Like some of them are still balled up at the end, and I'm very excited to see what goes through. And then I'm even more excited now since you guys, these deer leave and they come back. So there's probably at least, I don't know, 1 or 2 180s and probably 200 out there that I haven't even seen yet.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you got a couple
guaranteed.
booners that are wandering around.
Yeah, they're probably-
evading your cameras, and then they're going to leave, and they're going to come back.
Yeah, so I'm all excited.
If we don't have any disease this year, this is hands down going to be the best deer season that a lot of us have maybe ever seen.
Yeah.
I think.
Are we thinking maybe new state record coming through at all?
Possibly.
It's a possibility.
It's going to be an incredible season. Oh, there's going to be a lot of big deer shot this year, as long as everything. I don't want to get my hopes up because as long as we make it through and nothing bad happens. So,
Right.
But I think it's going to be an awesome year.
For like in the state of Illinois, or for the 4 of us. Because
For the 4 of us for sure. But yeah.
No. All right. Well, if that's it, we're gonna start saying on the goodbye and all things like this. But I know that I said at the beginning we were gonna talk shit about Brett, and we really didn't. But I will say this: I feel it was a lot more enjoyable that he wasn't here.
Brett sucks.
No, Brett, we miss you, buddy, but we understand when you got to get out there and the boss calls. The boss calls. But speaking of him, though, I do want to dabble in this since we're talking about wet rain and everything. Dude, how about that snap that he sent when it looked like he got out of the pond, draining his boots out and stuff?
Oh yeah.
I can't believe they were detasseling in that. Like,
Yeah.
my God.
Dude, out there.
I mean, I guess maybe is this a deal where they had to get it done? I don't really know, but yeah.
Probably. But yeah, that poor bastard.
Yeah.
All right. There you go, Brett. We even felt bad for you a little bit. But enjoy that while it lasts, because it won't happen again. So, all right, everybody, we appreciate you guys as always going through and listening to us. Make sure you go through and check out all of our sponsors. Let them know that you found them through us. We would greatly appreciate it. If you got anything you want us to talk about, let us know. If there's anybody you want us to maybe try to get a hold of, let us know. Or if you got a story, or you got a friend that has a story or something like that, we are not opposed to talking to other people about, topics and things like that, or to new people. We absolutely love it. So with all that being said, we will catch you on the next one.